Turn-based RPGs are monotonous. As a hardcore fan of the genre with thousands of hours, even I have to admit that they're plagued by three major problems. The first is that they're incredibly cliche. Oh, I'm a blank self-insert protagonist to fulfill your power fantasy. I'm a high-energy childhood friend. I fucking die. As a kid, I spent hundreds of hours sitting alone in the dark being immersed in these cliche worlds, and I loved every second. 20 years later, I opened Sea of Stars, and it was like, it doesn't just take you back to a simpler time, but perfectly solves so many problems of the genre, all while perfectly paying homage to its roots. Any other tropes you had in mind? How about buying linear upgrades from sake. This feeling of reconnecting with your childhood is the core of the story, opening on our heroes Zale and Vlir as reckless but excited, happy and outgoing children dreaming of just two things: a grand adventure with their best friend Garl, and finally being allowed to train at the academy. Through a series of events and flashing forward 10 years, these kids are gone, replaced by duty-bound and socially stunted warriors. Are your friends always this quiet? Me when my wife bumps into someone she knows at the shops? In a way, they are the very cliche I was making fun of, but it isn't the similarities that make this game fantastic, it's how they take a known trope, point it out, laugh at it, and then completely turn it upside down. Hey, good job, kid. Were my chest's okay? As the story unfolds, these cliches are completely broken by their friend Garl, who grounds them in their humanity and helps them become more dynamic and talkative. Their personalities begin to reappear, and this is paralleled perfectly against their older mentors who, lacking a Garl of their own, struggle with their responsibility as warriors. Seriously, a motherfucker could be dying and Garl would be like, nothing soup won't fix. Where most stories are about an unlikely hero growing into his role, our hero's story is the opposite. They've accepted their role. Now they have to accept their humanity. They're forced to confront responsibility, failure, loss, grief, and trauma in a very honest and genuine way that I wasn't expecting at all. 28-year-old man with a wife and a daughter. I have a job, I pay rent. Why am I crying over pixels? Fuck! Every character is so carefully designed, but none more so than the actual world. So much of it is carefully foreshadowed. As kids, they excitedly talk about a giant dragon called the Sleeper, named thanks to the way the wind plays a lullaby through a mountain. Later, you're walking along minding your own business, and this song starts. As a giant sleeping dragon larger than the entire continent comes into view. Me putting on a YouTube video to help fall asleep. It's moments like this that make you forget you're playing a game. You're sitting around a campfire listening to stories about evil ghost ships, ancient giants, or forgotten alchemists. The music, atmosphere, and the way these moments build out the world so effortlessly make you excited to explore. Oh shit, it's the ship! That's the ship! Yeah, I like ours better. And as you explore, you'll visit lush mountains, Mediterranean fields, crystal caverns, coral waterfalls, bustling merchant towns, abandoned cursed laboratories, islands cast in eternal night, necromancer-infested swamps, nightmare realms full of ghosts, deep jungles, underwater temples, frozen peaks, and dark caves full of body horror? This might seem like I'm spoiling a lot, but that's not even the first 30% of the game. Oh shit, that frog's gonna slurp kiss me. No, not the girl! Every time I thought this world couldn't get bigger, it does. And it isn't just massive, it's dynamic. The world changes as you progress the story. Your choices change how the world evolves. Towns are built, destroyed, characters move between locations, and there are so many secrets to discover. Being a seer has its perks, like how I can always tell who likes a good pair. What? But of course, this being a TRPG, the idea of traversing around a map that large sounds like hell, right? Stuck walking slowly between towns on boring fetch quests, being hit with constant random encounters over and over. This never-ending barrage of mechanics designed to pad out playtime has to be one of the major reasons I can't recommend some of my favorite games. But if the characters and world didn't make it clear the devs adore this genre, then the fact that they've handled all of these issues perfectly does. Ignoring the fact one of the first ways you travel is being thrown by a giant named Yeet, there are also zero random encounters both in the overworld and each location. Enemies are walking around clear as day, meaning you can avoid them if you want. Normally, I take any opportunity to avoid unnecessary turn-based combat, but I never once found myself going out of my way to avoid a fight, mostly because it's actually fun. Oh shit, let's go. The combat is fairly straightforward. You can attack, be attacked, use skills, magic, build your combo meter to do bigger attacks. But where it differs is that most actions in combat have a quick time event attached to make them stronger, block more damage, or completely change the effect. I can block this. 1, 2, 3. Oh shit. I love when turn-based combat does this, likely because of the nostalgia I have attached to Legend of the Dragoon, one of the greatest TRPGs of all time, which has very similar combat mechanics. It's just like playing tennis. 1, 2. Oh, it's really slow tennis. This is kind of boring, to be honest.
1 hour later.
Oh, Oh, that's a little bit better. There we go. Of course, it's an RPG, so every single move has an attribute attached to it, and some enemies are weaker or stronger against certain attributes. Where Sea of Stars takes it a step further is their lock system. Enemies will queue up massive dangerous attacks and show you a combination of damage they need to take to weaken or stop it entirely. It is incredibly fun planning out your turn to try and remove these locks before the timer clicks down. Failed the lock, but can't be too bad, right? And I'm dead. These are such simple additions, but it makes the combat just that tiny bit more dynamic that leaves you engaged in actually playing the game. You know, rather than just spamming the same overpowered summon spell every turn. I wouldn't say the combat is overly difficult, which is a bit of a letdown, but I noticed if I stopped paying attention, I'd quickly find myself overloaded by locks and, well, about to die. Oh, fuck. If you're careful, you can finish fights off incredibly fast, which feels intentional by the devs, who appear at every turn to be trying to let you play at your own pace. There are no long drawn out animations you have to watch over and over. I never needed to grind levels before a fight, and most importantly, there were absolutely zero blood swaps. Eljay, what the hell is a blood swap? Right, okay, you know how devs sometimes need a way to make the world feel full, diverse, and packed with lots of different enemies and mobs? But that's a lot of work. It's a lot easier to just make a handful of mobs, then recolor them for different areas. So you end up facing green slime, red slime, blue slime, slime in a top hat, slime with a slime in a top hat on top as a hat. But no, every zone is full of unique, interesting, and genuinely beautiful monsters that all have their own unique mechanics. It's a Zug Zug, what's he gonna do? Just a little dance today. And if you thought these designs were amazing, they're nothing compared to the bosses. Every time a larger-than-life creature crashes in to destroy you, this feeling of awe washes over me. Not just because of the design or their unique mechanics, making the fight a puzzle to figure out, but because of this. The music in this game is something else completely, and what actually sold me on playing it when I've been on the fence for 6 months to pick this up. And that was before I found out that every single song has 3 different versions. They all start bright, crisp, like the sun. You feel like you're setting off on a grand adventure, and then it gets dark. Notes ring out more. It feels mysterious, intense. There's a bit of synth in there. And then you're a fucking pirate. If you aren't instantly bopping your head along to this track, there might be something wrong with you. Because I spent hours just sat in taverns listening to this while playing a stupidly addictive mini game that has no effect on the game, which helped me realize if I tried to speak to any of the band, this would happen. Watch this. This is so cool. Ready? If I talk to her, the guitar is gone. This is such a small detail, but that's the entire point. Sea of Stars is a game made by people who adore this genre. It is a love letter of small details that made me feel like I did when I was a kid, sitting alone in my room playing Legend of the Dragoon. The story, the characters, the world, combat, every single thing, down to the last pixel, feels like it was made for someone like me. The only problem with this game is that it made me a 28-year-old man with a wife, a daughter, a job, I pay rent, cry like an idiot at 3 AM alone in my office. Alright, meet our leader, Captain Cliche.